Mariana Shapoval. Mariana Shapoval is a doctor of philology and a professor at the Department of History and Ukrainian Literature, Literary Theory, and Literary Creativity at the Educational and Research Institute of Philology of Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv. She is also a senior research fellow at the Les Courbis National Center for Theater Arts. She is interested in literary theory, contemporary drama, and applied literary theory. Today, she will tell us more about the dramaturgy of senses and modern plays for Ukrainian theater. Mariana, over to you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Svetlana, for your introduction. And I would like to thank the armed forces of Ukraine for providing us some silence to be able to focus on our work. Finally, I managed to prepare my presentation.
Чи видно мою презентацію?
Can you see my screen? Yes, yes, we can see your screen.
Не рухається вона чомусь.
Somehow I cannot click through the slides.
А так рухається?
Can you see the slides changing? Yes.
Рухається. Отже, так, перепрошую. Не те, перепрошую.
Just a second.
А перепрошую.
Sometimes it happens.
Працює наче.
Працює.
Так.
It seems to be working now.
Отже,
All right.
була пауза, але
Here we
нічого,
go.
думаю, що часу мені вистачить. Я хочу
Well, I hope that I will be able to
розповісти
present all my material despite this delay.
Буду
First and foremost, I would like to outline the topic of my presentation. I will talk about modern dramaturgy in Ukraine, but modern could be interpreted in different ways, and contemporary could be interpreted in different ways. Therefore, I will focus on the past 33 years, the time of the independence of Ukraine. Of course, this topic is rather broad in scope. Therefore, I will try to focus on those pillars that I mentioned in the title of my presentation: dramaturgy of meanings and the play for the theater. It allows me to narrow down the topic of my presentation, and I will explain to you that not all contemporary dramaturgy equals to the place for the theater. If we look back at the history of literature, we should outline the dramaturgy of the Ukrainian giants, and some of them are well known. In order to be able to write about the theater and to write plays, you have to work in the theater. You to be well connected. Dramaturgy and the theater in Ukraine work usually following different paths. Literature is divided into three forms: epic, lyric, and dramatic literary pieces. Over here, you see a quote from Aristotle, Poetics, chapter 3. This is the translation by Boris Tan, and you could read here about this division. Drama m- means yeah, presenting all characters in action. This is what Aristotle insisted on. The movement, the action. But when you study philology, you cannot see this connection between a literary piece and the movement on the stage. Dramaturgy is studied by philologists, and it is not studied together with the theater studies. Probably there is a lack of confidence between these two type of researchers. Therefore, they do not cooperate closely. Over here, you see a photo from a performance in Berizal Theater that is called Загибель Ескадри. It was directed by Boris Dardan, who was a student of Les Courbes, and the playwright for this play was Alexander Kornichuk. And Boris was putting on stage plays by Alexander Kornichuk, who is quite an outstanding playwright, but some of his actions from the point of view of history are rather dubious. Ukrainian theater was mostly controlled by the state, and as we know from history, the state in Ukraine was not always friendly to the Ukrainians. Therefore, in theater, there was a tight control over the language that was used and the performances that were on stage. Quite often, there were no perspectives for many plays to be put on stage. There are so many plays that had no hope of making it to the stage. Ukrainian writers and Ukrainian playwrights kept on writing their plays, but those plays were studied as part of literature studies. This life of theaters, the life of theaters was not interrelated with the lives of the playwrights. And some of the directors had to show Soviet propaganda or Russian propaganda. Therefore, they avoided Ukrainian dramatists. At the same time, literary researchers believe that dramaturgy should be studied under theater studies, but from the point of view of theater researchers, dramaturgy should be studied by professionals. At the same time, there are not so many classes of literature in theater, universities or higher education institutions. And stage directors or theater directors believe that they can write a play themselves. Therefore, dramaturgy found itself in between theater studies and literary studies. At the beginning of my career as a drama researcher, I took part at the Congress, and this Congress was held in Donetsk in 2005, and I found myself in one in the same on the same track as the theater researchers. It was quite unexpected and unusual for me. And when I met those people, they seemed to me like people from another planet. But after that Congress, I realized that dramaturgy should only be studied as interdisciplinary topic.
таке є. На настрохи вже зважають там
We
театри.
even have certain
Безумовно.
publications now. Therefore, there is
Цікаво,
this
що
fight,
драматургія
but it is
це
of interesting nature.
елітарна література,
We
а
have to
драматург
recognize that dramaturgy is
найцікавіше, що
not
дуже добре
perfect.
справді
It is flawed, and it is
мати дуже слабкий
not
фантазійний потенціал.
this sophisticated literature.
Сфальсифікована
It reminds
інформація.
us of a pre-cooked meal, some material to be used.
Може. І дослідники
As some texts, some plays or drama pieces could be very good in terms of the choice of words, but at the same time, they could have rather poor potential of being put on stage and being successful.
Але літературознавцям ще якось можна
Nonetheless,
визнати,
the researchers should not stop, even though it is quite difficult to find a publishing house that would publish a play, and it is even more difficult to find a reader for that play.
бо мова для
And
драматургії
therefore,
має велике значення. Це є
the
інформація, яке
dramatists have to
має бути
find answers to the questions, to find
відповідати
answers to the main questions. What
літературі.
language to use?
Що
That language should be natural. That language should be vibrant. It has to be rhythmical, and it has to be easy to pronounce, and it has to be aligned with the character
вона аж в
and the main
шахті
characters.
опублікована
Ukrainian or Russian? Well, here there is some
Тобто,
discrepancy. For instance, Kornichuk's play was written in Ukrainian, and then it was translated into Russian right away. There were these heralds of the Soviet Union who knew how to please their superiors. Under Soviet times, not so many people made it to on the theatrical stage, since it was used as a propaganda tool. The Russian Empire controlled the theater before the Soviet Union, then the Soviet Union took over the theater, and the Soviet Union was exterminating those who were dissenting, and even the Russian Federation is using theater for its propaganda through its agents.
На сцену сучасному драматургу буває дуже важко пробитися.
It is rather difficult
Як на
for
виконання
modern dramatists to see their play on the stage. Let me give you an example of Mikhail Reznikovich, who was the former, who is the former chief stage director at Russian theater drama. Reznikovich gave an interview, and actually he left Ukraine a couple of years ago. But you cannot watch his interview as it is marked as dangerous in Ukraine, but it is quite an interesting piece with a lot of confessions. Mikhail Reznikovich claims to be proponent of Putin, proponent of Stalin, and he is proud of not staging a single Ukrainian play in the theater of Russian drama. You see that he was awarded with an award in Kiev by Kuchma, and Reznikovich for 30 years was an administrator of an academic theater, and for 40 years he was head of a department at theater university named after Karpet, and for 20 years he was an academician and the secretary of Ukrainian Arts Academy. And over here you see the repertoire for the February of 2021 Theater of Russian Drama. 1 year
сезон
before
російськомовний.
the full-scale invasion, the
Для прикладу, в сучасному
95th
якщо ви
theatrical
подивитеся,
season.
то ви побачите,
3
що
stages were
фінал вистави
operational at the
українською,
same time, and you
російською. Нехай не
see
обманює
that there were
ті, що
50
виступили українською. Так, ось
performances, and you see that the
ми бачимо
announcement is
це
made
явище
in the Ukrainian language, but the performances are in the Russian language. These are the performances based on the works of Alexander Ostrovsky, Lev Tolstoy, Anton Chekhov, Nadezhda Ptushkina, Andrei Zorin, and others.
Це єдина вистава української.
Reznichenko
Він організував
compiled a text of Taras
вистави.
Shevchenko's poems
Цей текст
and they created
московський такий
a
театр,
play
Софіївський
that is called
музичний
Всюди
театр.
один,
Ми
Свічка на
називаємо
вітрі.
цей театр.
It was the
Зараз також
only
все більше і
performance
більше
in the
театрів
Ukrainian
відкриваються.
language.
Тоді, от в 18-му році, перед вами
In
афіша, і зараз дивіться
2018
фото афіша. Внизу
and
ми
in
бачимо, що
2019, you can compare the repertoires,
цих серед
January
вистав
2018 and March
ми бачимо
2019.
вистави за текстами
You see that these plays are based on the texts of Alexander Ostrovsky, Dostoevsky, Lev Tolstoy, Anton Chekhov, Dina Rubina, and Anatoly Krim. Anatoly Krim is actually a modern Ukrainian writer who is writing in Russian language. I should say that they were also putting the world plays in the Russian language.
Менші театри Києва до 100
So
місць.
here you can see smaller theaters in Kiev, up to 100 seats in each of them. Bravo Theater in 2019, you can also see a poster in Russian. And Kiev Academic Theater in Pechерsk in 2021, the black poster in Ukrainian, but it's only the poster that is in Ukrainian. In smaller letters, everything is also mentioned that it is used in Pushkin, Toshina, Pelevin, Verypayev. And speaking about Ukrainian present playwrights, there is Alexander Mardan, who is bilingual playwright. And now our favorite, the most progressive theaters, Podol Theater and Yan Theater, the ones where we consider the plays being the best. But let's look at May 2019 in the Yan Theater. And this is at the same time also the poster from the Academic Theater in Podil. And you can watch playwrights in Russian based on Griboyedov, Platonov, Bunin, Chekhov, and Kuprin. 5 plays in Yan Theater and 25% of plays in Podil Theater in Russian as well. So in both theaters, it is worth admitting that most of repertoire were in English. Now, the situation has changed, thank God. Now both theaters have modern and classical Ukrainian texts, but I have just set the context, the background, and this is something that has existed since 1991 until 2021. We can imagine how a Ukrainian writer who is writing plays for theater feels in this context. Not only they have to compete with all of the playwrights of all times and ages, because many of them have passed away, if we're talking about the ancient playwrights. But they also have to write it as simple as possible so that they can self-translate it into Russian. So here we have this combination of something that seems to be inherently uncombinable. And this, cultural and political, well, political in the first place, in my opinion, context, characterizes the existence of the Ukrainian playwright, and it makes Ukrainian drama pretty interesting for research because basically it was shaped in impossible conditions between literature and theater, between reader and viewer, between a book and a play, between Ukrainian and Russian languages, between theater critic and between the drama of census and writing plays to make the ends meet. And I have just mentioned the second thing, the drama of census, which is when you're trying to say by means of a play everything that is important to you, because probably your play will not be staged that much. So throughout all the years after Ukraine's independence, Ukrainian playwrights were trying to make it to the stage. And I would like to talk about the strategy of the modern day Ukrainian drama. How did they do that? What strategies did they rely on when it comes to the modern day Ukrainian drama? Here you can see two books. And the first strategy that I would like to mention is that part of modern Ukrainian writers who decided to write for theater and who decided to fight for the limelight, they started looking for self-actualization by means of publishing books. So, for example, the first try that Smoloskip publishing house helped with, and they had a Smoloskip Osip Zienkiewicz, the late Osip Zienkiewicz, who also was the editor-in-chief of Smoloskip. Since 1967, organized two competitions of modern drama for young playwrights, which means people up to 40 years old, because a playwright is, the highest step when it comes to a writer's career. So in 1998, there was this competition, and a book was published, and in 2003, a book was also published, an anthology. And look at the names, Waiting for Theater and Looking for Theater. These names basically scream about what pains and hurts playwrights. They are looking for theater. Aside from Smolsky Publishing House, it was also published by the State Union of Writers of Ukraine, but they didn't organize any kind of competition, but rather texts were submitted by the authors, and there were three editions of modern Ukrainian drama. Here you can see in 2005, 2006, and 2007, and the playwrights were only mentioned in volumes 3 and 4. And the census, also this abbreviation of the name is SUD, which means court, Сучасна українська драматургія. And later on, we can see a compilation that was also supported by the Kyiv City State Administration and using the competition Коронація Слова, because they also funded it. And here we can see an anthology. But the author of the foreword, Nina Kazachuk, in the first book mentions that 13 modern plays is yet another attempt to get through to the present day Ukrainian theater that is behind the barricades, hiding from the people. And maybe number 13 will show some magic force. And yes, it was in 2013. And it was the year of the Revolution of Dignity. And this is when the Russian aggression started. But let's go back to the previous revolution, the Orange Revolution, anthology that is called Illusion Strike, and also a brochure that was created to accompany it. It was a compilation But this compilation is slightly different because there is one cross-cutting topic or rather a mood. And here we're talking about a person loses all of their illusions. And here is a very interesting flyer with different mottos that coincide with what was said at Maidan in 2004. No to theater separatism, criminals should get away from the theater. Another strategy for playwrights is publishing such small, there was a strategy like that, to publish such small annotation of the modern plays. And playwrights would get together and they would publish it. These are pretty small thing books. Here you can see on the picture something published in 2017. And prior to that, so playwrights were trying to do it in every way possible, but it was very hard still to make it to stage. And because now, according to the new legislation, they also wanted some money for their work. Another strategy was publishing your own book. And here you can see, basically today I'm demonstrating my library. I missed all of the books and I took picture of them. I have books by various authors. Here you can see Alexander Vanets, Sergei Жадан, Pavlo Arye, Volodymyr Dubrov, well-known, Yaroslav Vereshchak, also well-known playwright. And only renowned writers who had money could do that, because clearly you could not earn anything with this plays. And most heads of theaters also ignored it because they understood that this kind of books, aside from plays for theater, there will also be some plays for reading. So if you buy that, you basically waste money. And if someone gives it to you as a present, it's okay. It can stay on your bookshelf. Maybe one day you will read it. But yes, this kind of books also did not help playwrights much. The most successful was the strategy of not only publishing your own books, but rather anthologies. 2015 through 2023, the help of Les Urbas Center, there were anthologies where different genres were compiled together. For example, you can see different books such as Motanka, the anthology by female writers. Another one is titled Train in Fish Tanks of the Squares. The other one is called Mystical Drama. The other one is titled From Sky to the Ground. And another interesting is Anthology of Modern Ukrainian Monodrama. It is also a very interesting genre form that became popular during the independence days. Aside from those books that I have demonstrated, there was also a trilogy of the Ukrainian plays, three anthologies that cover modern history, Maidan before and after in 2015, Ice and Fire Labyrinth, and another one, anthology of present-day Ukrainian drama. And the majority of people who wanted to initiate it was the head of the Les Kurba Center. Also, drama is available online. Here you can see links to different hubs where you can find the texts. Playwrights are not the same as writer. They're not hiding their texts. On the contrary, they're trying to share it so that those texts would be used by the theaters. And with the help of Goethe Institute, a modern drama hub has been updated, ukrdramahub.org.ua. Some of the texts are translated. Also, the last link, Anthology 24 digital anthology does not necessarily have to be in hard copy. Another strategy of the modern playwrights, given how difficult it is to make it to the existing theaters, modern-day playwrights were trying to find their own theater collectives, groups, basically creating theaters. For example, here, Theater in a Basket by Irina Volitska and Lydia Donarchuk, founded in 1997, place. They're from Lviv, well known when it comes to small theaters. Oftentimes, playwrights become directors, directors become playwrights, and vice versa. And there is a very unclear, but here's a very well known play from the medieval times that was one discovered by Ivan Frank about hell, and it was staged by Yulia Vasilina. You can find it online. Very interesting. Yeah, about how Jesus Christ goes down to hell and takes the sinners away from there. It was by Mist Theater. Also, there are some other small theaters because there are more and more playwrights and more directors emerging. A small theater, Перетворення, Transformation by Volodymyr Zavalnyk. Usually there are monoplays that are staged there or plays for 2-3 actors. And there is a very interesting theater of playwrights. They say that 20 playwrights got together, but in fact it was Natalia Verzbit and Maxim Kurechkin who came back from Russia to work here in Ukraine for the Ukrainian theater. Theaters are created to stage modern plays, but modern plays adapts to the small theater, to the minimum decoration, minimum characters, because it's amazing if you can pack everything in one car. The director is gonna be the driver, the actress is gonna sit next to him, and when you simply can easily travel to a different city or town on tour. Is it possible? Yes, and that's how it happens oftentimes. So that is why there is more and more requests for monoplay. For example, here you can see a picture of an anthology dedicated to Dutch plays specifically, to monoplays. And they are in principle different from other types of drama and other types of plays, because here it is more about narrative. And there was the pan-European trend that I remember about the human voice, and this trend for monoplays and monodrama in Ukraine shows a pretty good development, pretty rapid development. A lot is produced here because there is a request. Small theater, small text. You don't need a lot of funding for that. You don't need a huge space or venue for that. So this kind of theater allows modern Ukrainian playwrights to grow and evolve. Here is a picture from a play titled Woe. And here you can see the bullet points that list the different characteristics, attributes of the monoplay. It is very interesting that here we usually are talking about existential challenges, about memory, trauma, identity, and such texts can be only staged if there is proper interaction between director, actor, and viewer. Another strategy that I would like to highlight allows to show that to compete with all other playwrights that existed a long time ago too, you have to build everything based on the universal myth. This strategy was very productive, and there are 2 monographs that were written about that. In fact, there are actually more of them. I just picked two most bright examples by Elena Bonder that was written in 2006, and the other one by Oksana Kohut, written in 2010. So playwrights were not only creating the universal myth, but also during the literary studies, they analyzed drama, looking at the universal myth as the foundation. And here is a mysterious play by Dan Inferno in Mariupol Theater. Of course, there are plenty of texts that are based on myth, but this, for some reason, seems to be pretty important. It was directed by Anatoly Lavchenko, the director of Mariupol Drama Theater. Playwright is Neda Nezhdana. The text is about Maidan, about the Orange Revolution. And here you can see the archetypes depicted on stage. You can see some people wearing clothes, some spirits, a man who is a hero with a very theatrical sword behind his back, some mythical creature with horns, with bull horns, something, minotaur. And this is the play that also toured a little bit in the East. Now, this director is in isolation and barely managed to save him. He's back in Kiev. He keeps working, but he was incriminated for staging this play that was considered anti-Russian, basically, to be anti-Russian because it was about Maidan.
На основі універсального міфу і власних міфопитик сучасні
Based
драматурги
on the universal myth, the modern playwrights are trying to build the national myth. During my presentation at the Shevchenko conference, I dwelt upon Roland Barthes insisting on the myth not being part of identity. And it does not lie within the subconscious layer. Anyone could be a co-creator. Based on the researches by Roland Barthes, we know that there are three types of myth. They are the art myth and also the historical myth. And the system of national myths is part of national security, and it is part of the domestic policy and also foreign policy. And it is a part of an effort that could resemble the work in terms of energy independence or security efforts. The writers and playwrights were trying to carry out this work. They wanted to undertake this endeavor of shaping the myths for the Ukrainian nationality and identity. Therefore, Ukrainian playwrights decided to be part of Ukrainian myth design. And you can see the list of playwrights who wrote biographic plays. And there are two types of biographies, the biographies of the state builders and the biographies of the artists. And you see that mostly artists are used as protagonists. Most of those plays were dedicated to Shevchenko, and I mentioned that during the conference. Shevchenko is the baseline, the pillar of the national myth until now. There are many studies on the topic, therefore I don't want to repeat those ideas. There are many more plays on Shevchenko compared to other Ukrainian culture figures. In 1984, an interesting text was created by Yuri Shcherbak. Halina Stefanova is directing a play on. Halina Stefanova was a key actress in that play. Apart from that, the plays could be divided into the place for theater and place for reading. The plays for the theater, based on Shevchenko's biography, are as follows. For instance, Serdechny Rai or Oksana. And this is a play by Alexander Denisenko. And over here you can also see Alexander Havrosh. He wrote a play that is called Щоденник рядового Т, a diary of a private tea, and that is there is a play based on that literary piece. For two volumes of these literary piece. And over here you see Stanislav Rosovetsky. He authored a number of plays, but they were never performed on stage. And these plays are also based on Shevchenko's biography. Unfortunately, in Ukrainian theaters, the playwrights have to bring bribes. And if you bring your bribe, then your play would make it to the stage. Playwright Havrosh also wrote a number of plays that never put on stage. And now I would like to draw your attention to the fact that not all the plays are about Shevchenko. There are plays that are dedicated to Ivan Franko. For instance, a play Tayina Budya. This is a play dedicated to Ivan Franko, and it is staged at the Zaporizhia Theater. Lviv Theater, named after Lesa Ukrainka, is staging a play on Lesa Ukrainka. Mykolaiv National Academic Drama and Musical Comedy Theater stages the plays on Kwitka Tsisik's biography and Mykola Leontovich's biography.
Крім того, що сучасна українська драматургія вибудовує іконостас,
Contemporary Ukrainian dramaturgy is building the national myths, and they are using the plays that are centered around sacred events, for instance, victories and disasters. For instance, in that regard, it is worth mentioning a play by Natalka Vorozhbit. It is called Zernoskhovich, and it is dedicated to Holodomor. And another play is by Nadia Simchich, Maidan. It is dedicated to the Revolution of Dignity. Those two plays are of high relevance even now, and they are offered not as a mono play, but a docudrama. Such text could be of the utmost importance, especially when we live in the times of war. It was not by chance that I didn't focus in my presentation on the topic of war. I left it for in the final part of my presentation.
Всі драматурги зосередились на тому, що вони
In
об'єднані цією спільною темою війною.
2023,
Саме
many
їхня
Ukrainian playwrights started focusing on the topic of war.
загострював свою майстерність.
And maybe Ukrainian playwrights have been honing their skills in order to reflect the current events that brought us to the brink of existence and extinction in Ukraine. Now, Ukrainian playwrights are working on their drama pieces that are full of sense, and they are bringing Ukrainian plays to Europe. Those plays are easy to be translated, and they could be performed and directed by a small number of people. Therefore, they have become a Ukrainian propaganda means to tell the world about Ukraine, to tell about the Ukrainian fight, and also to explain about the way we live now. On the slide, you can see my conclusions. Basically, I don't want to repeat myself. The main takeaway is that in the past 30 years, we have created Ukrainian dramaturgy, contemporary Ukrainian dramaturgy, and the day will come when it will conquer not only a small stage, but also bigger stages in those theaters that were previously closed to Ukrainian playwrights. Thank you for your attention. And I'm looking forward to your questions, if any, if we have some time left, of course. Yes, Mariana, thank you very much. We do have some time for discussion. Frankly speaking, I learned a lot from your presentation, especially in the part of Ukrainian contemporary drama. Alexandra, go ahead with your question. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you very much, Mariana, for your presentation. I'm sorry, I forgot your last name. Oh, okay. I would like to thank Mariana, and I would like to thank Stanislava for your presentations that gave us an in-depth overview of biology, linguistics, and humanitarian and policy in the sphere of humanities in general. And Mariana, I have a question to you. The ideas that you mentioned from the point of view of history are of specific interest to me, since I am a theater lover myself. But to be honest, since 2014, since the war started, I didn't go to the drama and comedy theater in Kiev that is located at the left bank of the Dnieper. I know that the quality of the plays that were staged there was rather high, although they were in the Russian language. The actors were also acting in various Russian movies, and some of them regretted now. Okay, putting all that aside, do you see any prospects for the development of dramaturgy in Ukraine? Do you see any specific trends? Well, you know, looking back into history, one is always trying to predict the future. What is your take on the future of Ukrainian dramaturgy? Probably the topic of war will be always in between the lines. And in our childhood days, we used to see a lot of movies about the Second World War, so-called Great Patriotic War. And what about the future? What are the prospects for the Ukrainian dramaturgy? Anything specific to expect? And will it help to shape public opinion, or maybe we could actually contribute to that? Well, I'm sorry if my question was not clear, but I hope that you could dwell upon the prospects. Well, I see that there was a request to put on the last slide. This one,
Там, де зерносховище,
the one with the Zernoshoveshe by Natalka Ворожбит.
я не зрозуміла теж, який останній. Може, збір
Well, I didn't understand which slide you meant. This one
не дуже в мене вийшло.
with this publications? Oh, sorry.
Давайте наступним запитанням. Я маю відповісти пані
All
Олександрі.
right.
Я не можу
Well, getting back to Alexandra's question, I'm not a fortune teller myself. I believe that theater is art, and this is the form of art that fascinates us because we are sitting next to other people in the audience, in the hall, and there is the sense of unity. Now, when the plays are staged even in the basements, still people feel this sense of belonging to art. And I'm sure that both small and big theaters will grow and will thrive in the future. Probably some technologies will come in handy. For instance, there might be some web-based theater, or maybe we as viewers could participate interactively, for instance, by means of pushing some buttons while sitting in the audience.
Найперше, що має бути у такому театрі, це сенси, смисли.
Well, this
Має бути
theater, any
розуміння
theater should be based on a meaning.
має бути
There has to be some sense to it.
значеннями, смислом.
There has to be this deep meaning to it. Therefore, I believe that mono plays and documentary plays would be the ones on the rise in the future, and also certain technologies, the augmented technologies or assistive technologies would be of help. Thank you. Well, I believe that yes, for instance, artificial intelligence could help. But what about gender aspects? Do you believe that in future there will be more women in dramaturgy? Well, yes, yes, of course, because there will be more women left in Ukraine.
Жінок буде ставати більше,
And probably there will be more women in theater. Yes, of course, there will be more women presented because they want to be in theater and they want to have more men in the plays because there is a lack of male actors now. Well, of course, there will be more women in the future, but men will also contribute since theater has its therapeutic function. With all the events that are happening around us, it would be very important to compensate for this drama that is happening in our life. Therefore, we need to write about it, and we need to live through these events together with the other viewers in the audience. I'm sure that it will be difficult to buy tickets to a theatrical performance in the future. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mariana and Ludmila. We see your hand raised. Please go ahead. Mariana, thank you very much. I am a literary researcher myself, and I am also very much interested in drama research. Research. I was wondering about the following. What is the response from Ukrainian dramaturgy to the full-scale invasion? You mentioned some plays that are offered as literary pieces and that are then put on stage. What could we read now? Something contemporary. You know, I am from a small town that is far from Kiev. Maybe I could go to the capital and um, go to a play. Is there something that is of particular relevance to our current events? And another question, speaking about the context of war, do you believe that there will be some difference between the perception of war? Is it are the views changing? Will the dramaturgy be different from what we see here today? Thank you for your answers.
Дякую за запитання, пані Людмила.
Thank you for your questions, Ludmila. Oh, yes, indeed. I believe that that last slide would be of great interest, but it will take just too much time to find them. Probably you wanted to see those two publications, Названа війна, Unnamed War. If you go to the website of Les Corbus Center, you will find the publications, and you will find the texts there. They are offered in the electronic form, and you read them. Another book, another publication that you saw on the slide, it is a drama panorama, panoramic drama. And they theater that is called Театр на Жуках make announcements with regard to the piece. You can buy it, and also in the theater you can get it for free. I was very much pleased with such an opportunity. I bought it for my students, and they are writing their research papers on that. Regarding the topics mostly pertain to the everyday life, close to the friend line. And also, there are some plays that are mostly focused on the life underground, the demonic world, the means of survival in this world. And document part, our interaction with our enemies. Some of the texts are written by people who moved from the eastern part of Ukraine. There are some texts that are based on the texts of Ukrainians in immigration. And some plays are dedicated to the clash of cultures, for instance, German and Ukrainian. Some are focused on national identity. And these are the main topics that we see in modern plays, and the playwrights are trying to write it on the paper. The future topics, well, they will be different. Well, they say that history is written by the winners, but I believe that dramaturgy and drama pieces are also written by the winners. Therefore, it will be all defined by the victory and the outcome of the war. Thank you very much. Well, I'm sure that we will write great plays on the Ukrainian victory. Glory to Ukrainian heroes. Thank you very much, Mariana, for your fascinating presentation. And I would like to thank our both presenters today for your interesting, highly instructive and relevant presentations. Dear colleagues, thank you for joining us. Let me remind you that we will meet on Thursday. There will be two presentations in the English language. One will be dedicated to the deportation of Crimean Tatars, and the second one will be dedicated about music and war. See you on Thursday. Thank you, everyone, and glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Goodbye. Have a safe evening. Bye bye.